Devayam. Yamendaga home. Talks. Yamendaga home. Dorje Janje Delo Naroda Maraba Mela Juje Gambo Aduza Giza Gunjin Garmaba Jeye Jonji Jubanzananda Andrada Tarzan Baradin Robazo Zojo Jilanganyebe Nyamin Rongo Tabo Gajida Zorwa and Zoga Julamana Juba and the Nanda Zenjela Yellow Ganje Gamba Zomba Yin Zeno Kaila Jajime Bada Zende de da jube gonjela me ba zenjela me gonjen go zamba ye me nga der gonje bela mala Janda Zorwa Debe Ganjela Jeme Me Jeva Zenjela Yeme Ganjen Zomba Yin Ganjara Doibe Ngowo Zomade Maje de ganjo be ganjela Loda Java Zenjela Nanda Ngava Juga Zamba Ye Jaya Maya Jaya Jarvala Manga roba jarve ganjela Gorande yerme doba zenjela Jeva ganda yanda lamada Juje barala Juje
song.
Sada lam je yonde ra zo ne dorje jange gomba nyor do yo borde da la mar moje da ge jora be men den yone ka de jimbo go ne ji zo各种都经着早的做民间间的不让那的总三千个年我你了这就跟我说东这不咋不那么那么老做完的三千个我咋不那么老工作个把进步做完咱们那老让我知把的真的知把娘把了真的了早早跟的做起那么的这做做见面的边界刚的经着的经这个马多吉交了做完的，让那种你就搭建为应对日本交关Gyamtso嘞，各大家个那个在那边认真那些公帮恩就有，那说那你去了那么早嘛了，人工带来学堂带的领导上去瞧的头几呢，这里是说到这话这里几步。因为查验的主要这里南罗吉他这些那罗萨马里在上，操的这到别嘛安的别嘛从从要的操的罗萨马里的呢，在的实际上那个主要这里是刚有的，的呢，天津话嘛那么是主要的这样啥的，上面的老多的样咯。
Good afternoon, all my Dharma friends. Please generate bodhicitta as your motivation for listening to the teachings. I think it would be best if we use this afternoon entirely for whatever questions you have. The reason I say that is that the next song in the collection is quite a long one, composed by the Terchen Barway Dorje's son, Anupema Tsoong, and we wouldn't be able to get through it. So I think what we could do is go through your questions, and whenever all the questions have been dealt with, we'll just conclude.
So this is from yesterday that we never got to.
No problem.
Hello? Yeah, it's on.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, everyone. Looking for. Here we go. So, this is from Ilya. Dreams, old and new, increasingly enter my mind while awake. These experiences vivid, not that different from waking life, so seems like life and dream get closer, but I have no real lucidity in dreams. Advice?
The Ilya Keshuso.
Lazo.
That thing song more get the gender more cups of Milan Tonwa, thing song the Tonwa Namona Tonwa that so the Sepine cups of Dengiware. The Della Tokchitong the Milam Ganawa de Dong, not so Sepe cup Ginawa the Dawodawi, Chepash dead some. You know, Morong de Hakonayang the Milam Zong took my songs. Milam Zongwa get up carry.
Re dan nimun nawa dan simun nawa ni ndawo injiri teri. Na malam zong tap go na tango ne lam jipa rambala te se jeram te ya sarcha timbo onda te se sa so ke chazo go lu yedang la la te se sar dep tam matap ta rang lu phongkham ge phongkham de yedam la te se sar de jeram de la te se komba jang ta da jeram jima ta bla teni ko ta malam zaya ko yedang man ra wa mambo yo re de teni ko nyemo ko pa kya thamji malam jin ta wa ye samne ra kin dekhi go gang thap den malam ye samne ke sem den ta ba jo ga chi yo ba tam jin da malam ye samne ra kin ta ba jo ta teni di ke kom ro de teni se na ma ni ro le kap so teni tata Terchen Barway Dorje song yap honro yoten malam gomjira yori Tetsare tate pajar tsama tata gotsawari then the so the same that like the then lu singing yartam raw yoye salapamne lu singing yartab ke lu chokja then same timbe sambavi then lama la so yapo deb yadam la da lama la to gong aram malam sambar hyo malam malandong ho ki par sinje lab to so samne then son de trabo vi
Sorry.
then go garesi go then wang yelin tuyi se lama wo to hyo lama ra se yermi to samno ta ne then je tela semti do ne then je nyar gya na then ko telatin lama salab teltin chin then ni ro de then ni thok ka kap so tambo ni ta je nyalam gom ni kap so la nang chi thop sam re gen do sam no tang go de ta te ma tang na ye ni ni kap so la then ni rab rab kap so ni then 박차 대 삼노 땅투 맞다던데 되니 니로 지우고들 람지 삼노 땅에 다니로도 값을 되니 녀람년도 오 내가 말람예 삼니르게 되니 하고 타바죠 말람도 뭐히 되는 말람 그 값을 되는 말람 뭐히자도 말람 낭니 되니 검자죠 서때서 삼노 땅 당보도 말람데 뱀 효캠보를 공부를 리마던 말람 연 삼네게 양 삼는 dom바적 남도 잭게레 진제 마람 코랑 마람 연방어 미힐 마람 천로거리 대도 가서 홍콩 박찬 터진 보고 왕거리 인도들이 마도 저기 예마리 계양 저당 마람 서야데 람지 춘전 마람 트바랑다죠 사람과 럼바가 추종게도 마람인소 오늘자는 님모게 값서 마처바르라 띵띵 야보게 용토거를 마도 저게 님모게 센 라마 요반다 친 센 라마 자와니니 요마리 대인도 닝처때 마처바르 마탐나 친 마람 컨트롤마 동에 마처바르 조거잖아 대자 가래 가원의 창도 거리 대인도 뚜르게 박차데 사르데 사르 공덕이나 되니 가래 마람 한번 하고 되니 마람 등무선 되니 마람 트레저시 되니 마람 되니 가래 와상무 선바시 강다야 뚜르세 름지 공고lemse 람상 용토고 말이 가래 카버리 람상 용토와 가래 카버리
As you mentioned in your question, there can be a great deal of similarity between the quality of apparent reality of daytime waking experience and the experiences of dreams. In terms of how to cultivate lucid dreaming, knowing that you're dreaming while you're dreaming, the first step is to cultivate a clear generation stage image of yourself as your yidam, so that you regard, and this is practiced obviously while you're awake initially, so that you regard your own aggregates and elements as the illusory deity or mandala of deities. As for the particular techniques of beginning the practice of lucid dreaming, there are different explanations, but the main method is to remind yourself throughout the day while you're awake, this is a dream, or to question, am I dreaming? Is this real or am I dreaming? And the habit of what keeps us deluded in dreams is the habit of being deluded in dreams. So if you cultivate a remedial habit, the habit of questioning the reality of daytime appearances while you're awake, that habit will assert itself in the dream. So because you're constantly thinking, is this a dream? This must be a dream. Then eventually it will start happening when it is a dream, and then you'll be able to test that. Now, the next step after that would be to apply the particular techniques of dream yoga or dream practice, which are taught in the preliminaries and the common completion stage, which is the first half of what we call the white book. It's got the treasure text, the original terma text of the preliminaries, and also a clear guide to the generation stage. So if you look at the end of the first half of that, you'll find Terchen Barway Dorje's instructions on this practice. In order to implement them, basically what you would do, having gotten used to questioning whether you're dreaming or not during the day, what you would next do is, as you go to sleep, lie down on your right side in the posture of a sleeping lion, and then pray to your Guru and Yidam inseparable. May I dream tonight, and may I be able to recognize that I'm dreaming while I'm dreaming tonight, and so on. And you make these supplications or prayers as earnestly as you can. Then you receive the 4 empowerments from your Guru, who then dissolves into you, and you go to sleep confident of his blessing. Now, depending upon an individual's training, they may be able subsequently to recognize the distinct stages of falling asleep, which we generally call appearance, increase, and attainment. If not, at least you will be able to gain some experience of the hypnagogic state, that state in between being awake and dreaming. And that recognition of the hypnagogic state may be your gateway to initial lucidity. And then lucidity, once it's gained and stabilized, of course, is only the first step in the practice of dream yoga. But the thing about lucidity is that we have such a strong habit of being deluded in dreams that you may recognize that you're dreaming, but then something else will happen in the dream, or you'll think of something else in the dream, and you'll forget that you're dreaming, and you'll return to the state of deluded dreaming. So, like the daytime reminder, it requires reinforcement, and like everything else, repetition. Once you gain stability in lucid dreaming, then the next step would be to train in emanation and transformation of dream images, and then finally to use the dream state itself to meditate on the luminosity or the clear light. We say that the practice of dreaming is the measure of the path, which means that your degree of recognition and awareness in dreaming is a good measure of how deluded or undiluted you have become. Which means that unless you cultivated a good amount of stable mindfulness and vigilance during the day, you're not going to be able to do it in dreams. If you're deluded throughout the day, you're going to be even more deluded in the dream state, which is why it's sometimes called extra delusion or double delusion.
There's something that Yanka di Lomba, the Hanjun de Nyamok Pakata, Malamin, something can Damba Jorgoli Seriate, Maso Nyamni Sepa Capsuri, Town Joran so di Lomba and Trojano Mabondogoro, Moda, thank you, some Malamin, some Nirgan Tawa Jene, Taylor Chick Yangsona, modal ninga yon se bare ti kapsala payu da trinhi yon da nana du ni nyamni se ka kapsa nawa tham ji malam lan da ba jor ta ta tnu si teni ta da jerda malam zong dang da churo na na wale de churo de is kyan da ne ja samwa yin samwa de hie ka mare samwa ri ma da public le ke ja ke ya ke ja mare ena ta ta nge ke jam baro do jing hon ro tsa ti thik ti na da ne hon ro la ba de ngone ti na ne hon ro da người ta ngôn rõ ta zoram như các cái chế độ cái thi nào này khi giáo rồi thi nào ta này thích là tin này mà làm dùng cái thi đôi ba rồi rồi ta thế cái ta số sao là tin này chỉ xong nó tăng giá na thi ghép ba mi na mà cái com thầm na phát triển học qua tin này start point đó theo carbon tin nào ta ta giờ giáo rồi làm gì thế này thế teni ten tendrunda le teni zo tanga so te Barway Dorje song jertang chudok te Barway Dorje song re te tata te khora ngone tangro rombo je dorje ke chek jale ne khona ke ter mari tin na ni ta nga so changma Barway Dorje ter che da lama ta te chula te pa chimbo yo ba ma jang jang yin ba ke ta ke ja re nga so ten chula nyam ni se ke yo du teni ten du sa ne sanab yang te sa re nyor kare che ni Barway Dorje chu te terchute kongone tersar nani hyandane ja nyeba tersar dwag terka dinane really freshing rawo sarpa sarjang pepju khira se ma songwa denga damchek da tandrug li zawani ni hyoma songwa ta tandrug yemba keja tanga choge tata hie ko ri keja chammari ngone ri den ta gangza ke norva nyarcha hina Norva tela chong zawani ni mil Norva redor. Te kangza ke Norva nyarcha mahina, Norva sadorsi, Norva nyarcha mahina, Norva zena dori, sadori. Te yege zena bembori. Teni zoda kangza la ra le baro. Chula ra le baro. Teni nge pin toli sangpi.
That being said, I think that in this country we have to be a little bit careful when you tell people throughout the day, remind yourself that this all might be a dream, that this is just a dream, and so on. Because if you meditate that everything is a dream while you're driving, you could have an accident. So you would practice this mostly when you're at home and at leisure. There is also, of course, the teaching from the 6 dharmas of Naropa on dream yoga, but these are considered secret teachings not to be given in the public. That being said, the presentation of dream yoga in the teachings of Terchen Barway Dorje on the preliminaries, on the ngondro, while concise, are very effective, and basically are founded on the visualization of spheres of light as a focus for the mind in order to induce lucidity in the dream state. I'm confident, therefore, that if you actually practice this, this can be effectively achieved. Especially while there is also, of course, the famous teaching on the 6 dharmas of Naropa by Terchen Barway Dorje. This teaching, even though we call it the preliminaries or ngondro, is central to his Guru Rinpoche Dhamma, and therefore is a primary object for our faith, along with him and Guru Rinpoche themselves. So therefore I think that the blessing of practicing that method would be quite quick. All the more so because this is what we call tersar, or new treasures. And the value, or special value of new treasures, is that because the lineage is short, and in the case of those treasures of Terchen Barway Dorje, they're very short, then there has been no corruption of samaya, which means that their blessing is undiminished.
Next.
Oh, I forgot one thing because I didn't turn the page. And then he finished by saying, you know, it's all up to the degree of appreciation an individual practitioner has for the teachings. If someone knows enough to recognize a jewel as a jewel, then they will treasure it and value it. Somebody else might actually find a jewel and just think of it as a stone.
Can I ask a follow-up on the details of the Ngundro dream yoga?
Mm-hmm.
With the three spheres, the white and red and blue,
Mhm.
what do they look like? What's like
Mhm.
more details of the visualization? And then also a second question, when you're lying down, do you imagine that, do you receive the four empowerments lying down? And is your visualization, I know it's funny, but is
No.
the deity lying
Lying
down?
down?
Or is the deity upright? But you're, you know, so
Well, the
that
deity
one
is
too.
lying down, but the
Deity.
guru is standing, stamping on your head. No,
Guru's
the tata the ngondro tree nanda sombage melang zongta la the tigle carpo marpo ngompo sum gomge ores with detso ke chechong kandra yore dang namba kandra yore detwa tamboi
다소 그 체총나 데 치요 말이데 다데 체총나 현도 차바베나 초리데 특리 하장 그 현도 내자 살바 우음바와 넘바 대안하기 그 크스트런 hin라보다 체혈은라고 그랑이 조리서 스난스타드메바 그 다 치잡잖아 특히 충충 현대 내자단 디 고서 특히 운서와래 년가단 점바다 검나 데네데 다 최종대 삼노 혀라탄 거 말이데 너나 다 치리 가야나 단 태몽이 총서단 디참 혀가 공고 운서와 든르케게 사점메바 ngoल 마도바 Gyamtso chodanagi tendrike ke di ude ke nang pongka nang zada nang ko chachama ta ko hirgu ke hiwu chimbo he ke sarjame ba ko sarson nawo nang chachama ko be sarbo sibo tendrike samno tone de yedamla 가레 삼노다나 초코들이 여기는 삼노다 초코는 거러 삼노다나 초코들이 여담 가레 간혹에 송어데 뭐 여담 미사라체 송어 말이 되니 생겨냐다 암네 된데 쪽쪽부도 케나 쪽쪽부도 생겨냐다나 생겨냐다 니모글 루초 데고 도르지 칩던던 시모글 루초데 생겨냐다 암 송어레다 드르게 그때 도르지 루첸 독당 temder lula draina to semna char song le de temder tru ke samna tan de nyargyana de me pa tela tin de ni nyargyana bhakya cha jogol samno de manam de ngus sambar la samno to sem de damba de ko ta de tigle de samno tan de nyargyana ni ko sona de ni ko tin din ke manam de sarpo sipo de ni ha ko to kare temder wa
the yedan the pena pomo yana sheng the ngoro yana shu to gongyo ba nyen so rang nyen na yang the flade
korang jada mani ka la samna tang ro karte ngarang phombo ma phangye chare de phombo de yadam de ko jada mani ke teana yi samda
less is normally said about the size of the spheres than their brilliance. And Lama said, as you heard for several times, that there's no definite size, but then he decided it's a fingertip, a sphere the size of the tip of a finger. Yeah, and what's most important is that the three spheres of white, red, and blue light be extremely bright, seen as so bright and translucent and transparent so that they illuminate all the channels and so on within your body. So that the white one could be seen not so much as white, but as like crystal. And the red one and the blue one would be tinted, but similar. Also, imagine them as non-existent appearances, which means you can see them in your imagination, but there's nothing there, like a rainbow or the reflection of the moon in the body of water. As far as the physical posture to adopt, you can either be still sitting up or in the sleeping lion's posture. But in general, we say that the Vajra posture is the ideal posture during the day, and the sleeping lion's posture is the ideal posture at night. As for the question of, and the value of that is by arranging the conditions or circumstances in your body, realization arises in your mind. As for the relationship between that and the posture of the deity, you would, even though your body is physically lying down, you would imagine the deity's posture and orientation the way they are usually. So if they're sitting, they're sitting. If they're standing, and so on. The key to using this technique would be to combine two aspects of what you're doing with your mind. One is your intention, and the intention is to achieve lucid dreaming. The other is the imagination, and the imagery or imagination aspect of it is the bright spheres of light.
So another follow-up question from that. When laying on your right side, what is posture like a sleeping lion look like?
Well, you start by roaring. Senge nyata sava kandoyor.
Singa nyata saya da laban diru win rambe yo ye sala pan diru win kambani ma yem dada tomba khakya taban deba kapsa nyata darte.
It refers to the posture taken by the Buddha at the time of his parinirvana, and so is what is depicted in images of that. Essentially, it consists of lying on your right side with your right palm, with your right cheek resting on your right palm, your left leg, your left hand stretched out on the side of your left leg, and your legs straight.
Okay, so now a question from earlier today. Even though I have no realization, this is from Peter Elias, even though I have no realization whatsoever and remain thoroughly mired in confusion, the penetrating joy and delight expressed through these songs seem to offer at least a glimpse of the transparency of my self-imposed entrapment, as well as possibly way through. Is this an indication of the great power of Barway Dorje's blessing?
Chidonso kongla de Gyamtso kaya me trusem yopa ke semjen re nayang di dao ke de jenlap chen je sungo de so tobe kapso de ne shaksam dewa chempu nelok la sopa tang de tongge tokso la sopa raksam ripsam semla shagiores de jenlap ke tagnang rebe.
Tindi salabri tate yonkar yori ngone yonkar de dembari de ngone dembari ta kare sin tudur zone zo dan di lama seriate salab seriate ngone trane nguse tin ya yo mari de tindri hin yong ko de lama zo de yi ge ka de ka ta par nga so de zai yori de tiarang ri tenani yege to so yang lo na ngani ngabja tuje tamala ngani yigi zo song ne ko yige de zo zen go ya ke zo zai ri de le den de yigi zo song de yige te zabla ma la sam no dang do ne dan de zabla ma salab de yige to ro to de ne hyo de ne kyoran chol long tin ko de ha ko ta ba ta den ri ke salam jo ta ba ta ting en ze ju la kap so country song sam ne ri ju le jin ko re kya ta nga so Treasury of Eloquence lamsang cheko ni sepa na gi yong ya la ka le ka wo de ta to so changma ngone ta ne lam san la re de ma re ta to so la yi chi je na san lap da rong de le che wan yong ko re yi chi ka se je na san lap de le ma wan yong ko re den ru hi re da ngone re.
Well, what you say is very true, and that's how it's supposed to work. It's one of the implications of when it's said that these songs and others like them bestow liberation through being heard. Even though we don't see the Guru's wisdom body who taught these songs, it is still present and therefore is constantly blessing us through the songs. How does that work? Through the medium of the written form of them and the sound you hear when they are taught. This is one of the things the Buddha was referring to when he said, at the end of times, I will appear amongst you in the form of written words or letters. And through the receiving such teachings in their written and heard form, definitely we can receive blessing and give rise to extraordinary meditation experiences that we would not expect. Because we've been deluded for so long, it might be unrealistic of us to expect to just suddenly wake up from all delusion, like waking up in the morning. But blessings are very real, and this is an important instance of that.
Jirtang sang re la pachar yege le tata ngor so salap che re te kare se na pachar yege to son kepa ge yege tsam gya to samno mambo tong pecha mambo la ya drek ma drek pha drek cha drek sanje ge song gya le ka yege mambo he la tin ndan dal drek ne yak sa rin ndan ne drek ne yak sa ri sam ne khambaos so drek ko re san so ko to bu long ne rang yi ge ngo ma tha pa khoran so chor don ko le na wa tham ji yi zo so kha ra zo pecha lo go ma pecha gang o ma khon na ba yi ko to ba ge long ni chor dor ni te gong long ni dor ni te re de le ya te nyam gor se ya de te menga ge zo na ge zo salap che khyu na ge che khyu de nam jor po mo yogi ni se sung gor to so salap ha jin che ho.
Generally speaking, we regard realization songs like these as possessing or embodying more blessing even than long, carefully composed commentaries on the Buddha's teachings. Because those commentaries, as erudite as they are composed. They're thought out, they're written down, they're edited, adjusted, and so on. Whereas these songs were totally spontaneous. They simply burst forth from the expanse of the teacher's realization. So therefore, we regard realization songs of male and female yogis as the most important type of instruction.
Okay, Shasta, do the next one.
Yes,
Then
go ahead.
This is all I have, unless somebody else asks. A number of teachings texts describe terrifying consequences and situations one can send to obstacles and obstructors and enablers. For example, Ekajati's 900,000 wolves. How does this reconcile with generating and embodying bodhicitta?
Could you take your mask off? Because I don't know, I heard obstructors and then I heard Ekajati and that's about it.
Okay, sorry. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A number of teachings texts describe terrifying consequences and situations one can send to obstructors and obstructors.
One can send?
To send obstructors.
To send? I don't
Send,
know what
S-E-N-D.
Sent.
you mean.
Yeah, send obstructors. So with Ikajati, if you're having a problem, you could say, Ikajati, please send your wolves to somebody who's being an obstacle to me.
No one's ever told me to do that.
Here, let me go. I've got Ikajati.
I know,
I've got
but
it right here. I've got it here. Let me just. So I praise and supplicate you and the four concealed ones, your 900,000 wolves, your innumerable secondary and tertiary emanations, and the 100,000 matrikas, fulfill this Vidara's wishes, dispel obstacles and adversity, guard and protect me day and
It
night.
says dispel obstacles, doesn't say attack people with
Just
wolves.
send your messengers, predators and wolves to my enemies.
Oh, so, yeah, let's just ask him specifically about that line, because the question I don't completely
Well,
understand.
I think that's it. Send your messengers,
Dire.
predators and wolves.
Sulka ginanle.
Gyammo gumbam.
Chomugumum de amare. Degi jela zaka kayena. Drala
근데
jo.
소문이 뭐 버리지 대화지면 감정이 사론 세지 보면 아도 소문이 매밤하게 gyammo gumbam 양저 년저 삼년 마마
Chula to sorek zambar baji chenso ninso.
ninso sonjoro 포냐 제장
Ponya chechon zaka drala jo seva karere.
포냐 제장 사카드라는 요 서야데 자 서야데 동오보 그때니 하고야데 포냐 제장 사카드라는 요 서야데 자오스야데 이나 요위네 비교사 요마리 포냐 제장 사카드라는 요 저데 비거데 비거리 자라 비거데 동오보 그때니 삼노 당겨나 단제 뇽과 동아데 만더버치다 나송 에까자적게 톡지트바 짱모 탐지 나란서라 비네 짱모티 그 뇽몽바가 동어 또바 탐지 그 차카장에 이네 대나기 콩남바 탐지 그 샤르데 이네 ndo herjana ngaraga jule yob danze nyomo botong drawate man darko zone teni console be called they be in the take chade teni ngaranzo donje mamo ekazata ke nelo ke tawate sorto called they to za de dramro je de nyomo botong to pa de tela kyamo de bidone ndorna ekazata korang ge yishik je da yishik ji san zan chi bin de korda.
Lines like this are not calling on or inciting harm to or negative consequences for external beings. That needs to be understood from the word go. The line that says, your messengers and consuming wolves to the enemy Jo. I mean, you could say send. It's actually, there's no real verb there. But anyway, what's the enemy? Our self-fixation. That's our only true enemy. Ekajati is a wisdom deity, a supreme wisdom deity. The 900,000 she-wolves are emanations of her heart. You can't ask them to harm. What you are asking them to do is to conquer and destroy your own self-fixation, your own ignorance. Where did that question come from?
From Karen Michael.
Okay.
Yeah, she said lost in translation. But I think that answered it.
Let's hope
I
so.
think this answered it. That's
Good.
that the enemies are our
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
Let me look at questions. Okay. Here. What is the significance, meaning of Guru Rinpoche's hand gestures, particularly his right hand held overhead in front of him and on his left leg extended?
Well, that's the form that goes to New York City, so he's calling a cab. That thing not so ke guru ke tudrup ke khawso nonsi janang ke cha yepa de Sergi Dorje namka dengwa dong dene yomba ke topa dong zebum zongwa de dondak chaja de dondak karere.
사이에 바기 세르제 도르제 남카 땡마데 고터 도르제 데 콘조라 메바 콘고르르 모체 고거데 도르지 칩던다 뎀봉오 세르제 도르제 데 세르제 도르제 데라 너와 망보 요리 자와 랭가 강오다 용가 강오다 양가다 용가 강오 도 허제데나 남칼라 땡와데 똥니 코나게 따와데 똥니 남케 ing던 잡아 강오게 saye pade jorame pa dorje de nam kala tengwa da so yong ba gen chim ka pa la na ne chimi tse ren de song ji de ko chewan ren zang ko komba ni cha wa ren go bo cheba mi de yen me ba di da da tun ru ke da dong de la ma bo gen de ki ndra ma da pa cha jon de ja ya ali de dong wo cha ni da tun ru ke dan ra wo de da re ma to je ge yang na ka pa la na ta ba de cha kong le ge song do golden ra wo dorje ren nam kala de ne kore ke ngang tra ndawo da ma yin da de ya ke chi da ndawo tin ri ma ri kore ke ngone ta ne ta de kore kan yin ba de di da de ta tin ri tin da ko ta tin ri sa ro
The symbol of Guru Rinpoche in this specific form called he who nongsi zinnan, or he who overpowers all that appears and exists, the holding the golden vajra aloft is basically a demonstration or proclamation of his realization and the unchanging nature of his body. Lama said there's a lot that can be said about this, but the main meaning of the golden vajra is to point out that Guru Rinpoche has achieved a state of unchanging realization. Now, of course, the parts of a vajra can be broken down into those that represent the 5 male and 5 female Buddhas and so forth. But fundamentally, vajra always represents that which is unchanging, in other words, emptiness. So it represents the fact that Guru Rinpoche has completely and perfectly realized emptiness. Somewhat similarly, the skull cup filled with Amrita and the longevity vase within it that he holds in his left hand represent that he has achieved the state of a Vidyadhara with control over lifespan or longevity. These scepters don't mean that he's surprised by somebody and so he's threatening to throw his vajra at them, or that he has to constantly sit there drinking Amrita out of a skull. Can you please take off your mask? 'Cause I can't understand a word you say.
I haven't got this in front of me, so put both together and you can't hear. Can the upcoming songs of Guru Yoga be considered complete practices in themselves?
Data de jigi jesu yongwa ke ladrup ke chichu mompo detso ke nyamlan kang tsangwa cha tsangwa rebe. Ladrup ke re the Terchen Ladrup down, Dongpo Rinpoche Ladrup down, detso ina ladrup kashidawa.
ori taron la dum ni sam ri yo
Nisum da.
ri ori la dum thong yang sa avada da la dum je salap chanbe ko la dum je so da tare ta ding ngudop char je te la dum je rik tong dorji thol la dum je so ra teni le ra ta dunjong ning ba ke de eri mari tongkar ka la dum ta so la dum kha ke yo ri ta
Detso nyamlan pena kongrongchi nyamlan zona drigira.
pe ya bon do ta kanro ke nyamne su na ha le ba ke to so chama de salap chenbo jin je la dum jang jang kanro ke so so jeb du kan yosa da na ti la dum de nyamne su na ha le ba ke ya bor
Definitely. There are several of these coming up. There are about 3 focused on Terchen Barway Dorje himself, such as there's one that Rinpoche previously taught called the Song of Awareness Emptiness, the Vajra Song of Awareness Emptiness. Then there's a shorter one called Rain of Blessing. There's what's called the Vajra, the very secret Avaduti Guru Yoga. And then there's also a Guru Yoga of the Dongtro Rinpoche, of the Chodak, the Chodak Dongkar Trukku Rinpoche. And each of them is a sufficient, complete practice. And it would be excellent for anyone who receives them to practice any one of them that they like. And that choice can also be based on the comparative length or brevity of the liturgy.
So far, no other questions. Let me just look at my email.
Oh. Any huh? More? Oh, yeah.
I wanted to ask about the relationship between self and others in relation to pure perception. Because it seems like the more you purify your perception, then others become better. But then there's this bodhisattva path of trying to benefit others, and then sometimes it seems like if I'm hanging out with her, is she a separate person? Or so there's confusion about between self and other. What's the relationship between oneself and other beings on the path?
Do you mean, should one emphasize a pure outlook towards others, seeing them as perfect, or should one emphasize the bodhisattva aspiration to liberate them? Is that part of what you're asking?
It's part of it. I think the main part is like how, as far as other beings and the environment being an expression of oneself.
Oh, okay.
What's the line there? What's going on?
Dakta, shenda nangwa ge korlarit. Da namba chikta nangatsa ge semchen samala dangnang chegu gudu. Yang jangchu sampa ge labja ge nane semchen tamche rimji minpa dang drogo gudu. Yinang so ge nyamlang gongrim shindo dak seba dang shen seba ge ngatsa nijin shuk chenpo dura wala. De tets nyung de drogo do. Tanayang sam dak dang shenak ge chepa shedak sorgamanda.
Ri date ri dan samsamso tendru kiri da yin sayate ko dana ga goni chek samno tangyana tikke jate nelok da ko 동다 산적 셈지 내로가 따와 돈이 계좌 힘으로 내로가 따와 돈이 가서 창말라 야 당번에 가서 창만 철어 말이야 철 매와 되고 가서 나와 탐지 현강은 당원 철거로만 타동 가서 상계에 가서 대리 대리 산적 선바 탐지 그 셈지 탐지 철 송화되라 철도 삼니가 가서 또봐 인생가 또봐 다 이니 요바데 동할 하고호로와 나라 동할 간저요 이나 동할 간저요 나라 간전 철도 이나 간전 철도 나라 대나게 렉도가 동할 탐지 레레견도 동할 간저도 디 동할 탐지는 좁고도 삼니 건접 산적 셈지 산노래 땅도 산적 선바탐지가 tat dorna samno tangdangla tati samno tangda konzop sanjo samda tonda sanjo ge sem ninga so ge lamga nan ron ko ro te ko tonda sanjo ge sem je ne lo ge tawa te ngon chu ne ka so la da yin ni ka da yin ni ge nin zeng de hen ro ko le da yin mi da yin ni ge nin zeng de hen ko ro nin zeng de hen ro de konda zambo na ge ri sang gen ro ko le de ni da yin ni zo le me wa cha ro ko le te ko ya 당보네 고 내로 코랑 양 다바 저 가서 그 동거로 대인도 다때 마도 심지 탐지라 가서 삼바데 닝게 고요리 로버통 세고리 당 가서 그 다다 제름 건도 동니 당보니 건도 대 마도 심지 탐지라 닝게를见도 당보 저저거로 대 땡생 넘버 심지 코법네 현도 대니 당보 동니 근어와 자 요데 동니 어와 대니 심지 탐지 마트 대 마도 심지 탐지를 닝게를见도 닝게 대라 대니 저에 등에서 건네 제람 라고 건도로 대나게 심지 그 동세야와래 대데 심지 그 동유 다기니 메일 린저 저 말에 다다 가서 나만 트럭값서 대 만트럭값서 대니 고 산이 공바 축고 공바 동도 자도 대 다기님이 다기 예미 인생도 또 밖에 차려 왔더니 대값은 통이야 요 말이다 대값은 니요 말이 Te kapsa teni ta chuko ga long the long ko ga teni truko ga simji ga tonzi ne yang zeya yori ma to che ga ngarang ga na wala ta kare zoglo ta te dru ma nyong ba lamji ke pa na gi re ta nyinzen ga to ba heng ro ko re te yo ma re te kapsa.
The way we are taught to regard the relationship between self and other is twofold, because we need to cultivate both absolute bodhicitta and a relative bodhicitta. From the perspective of absolute bodhicitta, the true nature of things, in spite of our delusion, really things have always been Buddhas and a Buddha Ram. There is in fact no such thing as self and other. But at the same time, in our training, we need to emulate the intentions and deeds of bodhisattvas, which means that at the same time, we need to extrapolate from our own suffering and use that to empathize with and seek to end the suffering of others. When someone fully recognizes absolute truth, there will no longer, for that being, be the appearances of duality, the appearances of self and other, because they're no longer deluded, and those things, self and other, have never actually truly existed. They experience the same true reality that was recognized at the beginning by Samantabhadra. But while we aspire to that, we have not yet achieved that, and therefore, on the way to achieving it, we must cultivate love and compassion. We need, for example, to experience the relationship between the realization of absolute truth or emptiness and compassion for sentient beings, which is an attribute of relative bodhicitta. For example, consider the way we practice the generation stage. We begin the main practice of any generation stage sadhana with what are called the three samadhis, the first of which is meditation on suchness, or absolute truth itself. The second samadhi, the samadhi of ubiquitous appearance, or appearing everywhere, is the spontaneous, ultimately spontaneous arising of compassion as a motivation for all beings who, like ourselves, have not yet truly realized that suchness or absolute truth. So therefore, in that aspect of our training, we begin with the emptiness, the absolute truth, and then subsequently, through the arising of compassion as the natural affect of that recognition of absolute truth, we then arise either gradually or instantaneously as the deity. We are deluded, so therefore we experience duality, we experience self and other. For an undiluted cognition, there are not these two things. There's no such thing as self and no such thing as others. When someone therefore achieves perfect awakening or Buddhahood, from that moment onward, they will never again experience self and other. Yet at the same time, they will remain active for as long as beings have not themselves achieved Buddhahood through the Nirmanakaya and Sambhogakaya. But while those Nirmanakayas and Sambhogakayas are active in benefiting beings, they don't see beings as other. And to ask for a further explanation of that would be asking me to talk about a place I've never been.
So this is from Nina. What is the relation between awareness and realization and insight? I have naked awareness where there is no veil between awareness and awareness, and unity of tranquility and insight grows into realization.
What were the three again?
So
Awareness?
and awareness, realization, and insight.
Okay. Are those the same thing? Is that what she's asking?
I
What's
think
the
that's
relationship?
what she's
Okay.
asking, yeah.
The chidonso the gong tanye ke nane rikpa dam rangrik dam chik the ne laktong sawa da ni. What was the third one? Realization?
Insight.
No, I said that
Insight.
one already.
So awareness,
Okay.
realization,
And
and
then
insight.
tokpa.
Topa.
Nyam toke tokpa.
Uh-huh.
Chidonso
That-
rikpa dam laktong dam tokpa delsu kandoyor.
다다소 맹가다기로 맹자마다다 동옥 때니 찍리마도 요마리 르바 세야데 셈코나고 그게 셈코나고 라 르바 존에 히코리 사조 값서 데니 대야나기 삼통제나 르바 고고 히네게 라 데레 라바케 셈코랑게 사른 뉴미 히데 하고온데 데라 lamthong seriade menga ta kawli lamthong zena rikpa zena tataso menga ta gi mangbo rede dongo go tondo semne lo go tawa de khorang ke dela ke ja de hin de ko de dela tani ge cheng mangbo be gyu se ko ri.
They are synonymous. We use a lot of different terms to refer to the same thing in particular contexts. So, for example, in the Mahamudra and Dzogchen teachings, we'll often refer to the mind's nature as awareness, because that's what it is. And then we use the term insight to refer to when that awareness recognizes itself. And sometimes it's translated a special insight or superior insight because you're achieving a state of awareness or recognition of awareness that is superior to mere tranquility. And so therefore, that realization, which we call insight, is the same thing as awareness.
Okay, I'm going to go to this question and then the next. Again, Ilya, I usually have confidence in myself as deity, but sometimes it falters, and I remind myself that my mind and Rinpoche's are the same, and this invigorates confidence. I find recollecting my guru or recollecting the urgent need for bodhicitta to be the remedy of many of my challenges in Yidam practice. Are these good methods to use during practice? Are there others?
The gender de Eliamor Gomjab Kasa Lage Najalam Lage de Semnang de Shedat Shorgomendos, and it's some short drogers. Yingson ne Shona, the net some Morange de Rumboche Drene, Rumboche Semla Shane, the net de Jamba de Sor Cook Drogeris, Samsung Jangchup to Sem Kunlong de Dene, de Sem Sor Cogeris. Deni Dang Shandak de Fly Downang, de Junda Shak, Tap Shandak Kandoyor.
다데 답이야 교리 다저당 그 라달라마 예미 공고레마도 라땡 오데 라망가랑 그 자발라마 강연바데 라 고메 라땡 오데 자발라마 연바데 삼노데 따버땅고레마도 제게 라달라마 카카리소나 ndako mari sanap kaya o mari sanap kaya jok thop ka mari la da lama rangsem so yer me bare samna ton so na sanap de no pa de khaja ne nyer bare la ko de ndu yadam zoli khare lama zoli khala samno ma ngar rangsem zoli khala samno ma de gomji ke ko gom samno tangji de rangsem re de gomji yadam la de lama ni yer me be ndu te gom de kakalan ye je me war ke ngo ni sam no tan du la da ran sen la da lama ran sen sam yer mi jek den rin ro ko de tere teni di ngo te la da lama ran sen sam je ngo te sa jok sem ko chi sam ba sa jok sem ko le los kar ba yo ma sa jok sem ti ngo wan da to ko de ri sam sa yen ro de lama lo so ran dem ne chor san de ba je da sanjok sem gomne sande baje tele la sare teni thammenga yin teni gangtin ya ma zo de ta sangha nyamni se du ta zo de ko lama lo son de bi yen ro da na lama lo son de bi teni ko ta da ri chazo go mindfulness de ke ta par song job ya bo bi teni yen ro da na yang lama lo so ran de Lama ransam yadam sam yer me bar gangando teni gom tamna teni tel tendni sanjog sam jul chen ro te zo de lama son de ta te ri tel la sa o mari lama tin tamna tel ga sa phachar yo mari.
Well, the two methods you mentioned, recollection of and supplication of the Guru, and reminding yourself of your motivation of bodhicitta are the best methods for protecting the mind from distraction in any context, including distraction while engaged in deity meditation. It is important to remember that the mind that is meditating on the deity being imagined or meditated on in that mind, and the Guru, the meditator's Guru, are not three different things. If you imagine that the Yidam or the deity as one being and the Guru as a different being, you won't receive much blessing through the practice. We need to resolve the inseparability of the Guru and deity, and moreover the inseparability of the meditator's mind, and both of those. They're not really three different things. What is meditating on the deity is you, which is to say your mind, the meditator. What image is being cultivated in or by that mind? The image of the deity. And who or what is the identity of that deity that we imagine? It's our Guru. So if you recognize mind, deity, and Guru to be not three different things, that's very, very powerful. Of course, it's excellent also to use reminding yourself of bodhicitta motivation to return from distraction. But as you indicated in your question, the single best way to resolve any instance of distraction is praying to our Guru. We cultivate mindfulness, and then when we lose it and become distracted, we pray to the Guru. There's nothing better than that.
Dating Hanju yi hin soja da pomo ngake dada lewenga wana jiksine yosa yorwa dada pomo hyakaran soda ngangza ji dada pomo nga yori kore kor ngangza droma da dati ko pomo nga yori yi hin soja da changwa samye ni deni kongge kong yedamla la kor yengdene deni wana ni kapsala yedamla hyalnguse tin dene wana ni kapsala da deni pomo nga la 다 계란 속에 teranga wangde din danji yadam ge lan de le hyoken so nga lama kan de hyoken zend de pomo yinba yadege o nga chu nga so ko wang o de lama chi gen de hyoba yin teranga so ge yadam lang so hyar zend de teranga so wangde yadam de hyune yaksari zed kong wang ma tabri pomo nga de yihin soja ge ngarang ge tu ta pa lama chi gen de wang hyoba le chi le ka rin che sami teranga nga ga wang lama chi gen de hyoken zed Teni yihin soja ka wang tosori. Karirisina, yide wang de karirisina, yadam la hyar zayin yode, lama karina dina, lama nawa pa yadam la dan dine tuidina, chor yadam la hyar zayin oli mato, yadam lo su kirba, lama lo su kirba yadam mewa de, yihin soja ka ha kosunari, teni de wang yihin soja tabri. Ta tindru kege nga so sam tan togo.
For example, at one point, Guru Rinpoche was preparing to give an empowerment to Yeshe Topgyal, Gyamtso, and 3 other Tibetan disciples, women. And before giving them the empowerment, he asked them, he said, do you wish today, he displayed the form of the Yidam as emerging from him, and he said, today do you wish to receive this empowerment from the Yidam or from the Guru? And the 4, other than Yeshe Topgyal, said, well, we've received lots of empowerments from you up to now, so maybe today we'll receive the empowerment from the Yidam. And as a result, the deity disappeared in their perception into Guru Rinpoche, and they didn't receive the empowerment at all. Yeshe Topgyal, on the other hand, understood and said, I've always depended entirely upon you. You have been of peerless kindness to me in giving empowerments in the past. Therefore, I shall continue to do so. And today and hereafter, I will receive this and other empowerments from you, from the Guru. And she received the empowerment. If you see the Yidam and the Guru as 2 different things, then it's a misunderstanding.
Okay, sorry, there are a lot of questions. I'm just going, given the following.
Okay. I have lots, no problem.
All right. This is Cheryl. Given the following level of my practice, would it be better for me not to attend monthly live stream of sukhs and instead focus on my personal practice? 1, I visualization of mandala, only see Guru, not rest of mandala. 2, channels not untied, no spontaneous singing, dance on my part. 3, don't have the faith of a Tibetan child.
I don't understand how many questions that is. The first question was, should she do her daily practice or tune in to the live stream tsok?
Yeah.
Then she mentioned about the difference between the visualizations of the daily practice of Guru Rinpoche, but is it 3 different questions?
I think it's all involved in one. I mean, I think she...
Okay.
And I'm taking from my own, because I don't, but I'm thinking, she said, taking her point 3, she doesn't have the faith of a Tibetan child.
Da chikte na morangi de jundu nyamnen junche de kanyam hate rangzo yana de ngatso ke ya de guru dang sepanya ngatso potsope kaso de zungi gone de nyamdo dona kangajires.
Dade bot gajari, ngazo changma terwa. De ngazo yond zomgaten toje de ngazo ge dujin chuba dumchu nyanga chipjala kanroma da ngoro kona batamji ge mixer ge dujin ge kapso group ngazo dorje chepoda chemoyonzo rone damse hyabjang ge chita lama da chojin kholo da lama ya da pawon kharo tamji la tsasamla 소소 그 담색이 냠차 담지 다와르나 손손의 협장 다 대세거 대장마서 홀 두죠 매바 초원경경 가서 냠니 조야데 개체규직 디나니 년가 첩절라 냠던 존네 총콜거지데 개체규직 대니까 그 연도 매방아서 상하 그 냠니세도 고호든가 저 참아 대세거
Both, because there need to be 2 aspects to our practice. One aspect is what are called timely or periodic offering ceremonies, where on the days especially sacred to the activities of Guru Rinpoche on the 10th and the Vajrayogini on the 25th, we gather together either physically or virtually through Zoom, and by presenting these feast offerings, we purify any violations of samaya that we have committed during the previous month or previous 2 weeks. So we need to do that. That's an important part of our training. But equally important is that we constantly and continually engage in our daily practice. Everyone needs both of these, so the answer is both.
Okay. So the next is James Quinn. Is there a connection between the image of Guru Rinpoche dancing with the Dhammaru and Kampala and the practice of feasts?
Kampala, the
Kampala.
Mahasiddha Kampala,
Kampala.
but that's a Mahasiddha. I don't know much of his. Where is he getting Guru Rinpoche dancing with a Dhammaru? And where is he getting Kampala?
I don't
Kampala
know.
sawe druptok chichu kena na chigre. De Guru la drawa yapa ke kena kayana de.
I mean, the only thing is he's listening to this, so maybe I should go to the next question.
Yeah,
and
I think so, because I don't know
if
what
you
it's asking.
can, James, if you can just clarify what Yeshe's just asked.
Dhammaru tsamala yoro.
All right, so the next one, Norjan Lama, my notes from Lama Tratap's teaching in July of last year read, when you pray to the Guru with devotion and feel his/her presence, this is your mind mixing with the Guru's mind. Are there specific signs that come with feeling his presence, or is it enough just to feel his presence?
Who said it?
Last
Last year Rinpoche was teaching and said it?
No, Lama Tratap.
Lama Tratap,
No, Lama
okay.
Tratap.
July or something.
So, okay, so could you say it again? I'm sorry, I'm having.
Lamaran say yemin.
Yeah, all right, so my notes,
The question is the feeling of the Guru's presence in your mind the same as your mind mixing with the Guru's mind?
so I'm going to put, there are specific signs that come with feeling his presence. So I'm just doing the quotes. Or is it enough just to, in quotes, feel his presence?
Lama, Zawe Lama don Dujal Mepa ke Sonang, Jungwa Tsamje, Drigirepe, Yana Dedan Jawa ke Taknang, Mixawa Gogidwe.
Tsawa lama lan dharwa mepa. Tijya mepa ki tsawa lama yi te ko dharwa mepa ra gon tabje ta. Lama ran se yin mi yin samne ke ta thang re ke ya te. Ta tele la se ti cha goha ma ta te rako re. Tijya lama mabji na.
No signs in addition to being constantly aware that your mind and the Guru are inseparable, and therefore constantly aware of the Guru's presence. There's nothing better than that. There's nothing beyond that that is needed.
Okay, so going back to James, so is there a connection between Guru Rinpoche, between the image of Guru Rinpoche dancing with Dhammaru and Kapala?
Kampala or Kapala?
Kapala.
The Kapala is the skull.
Okay.
Kapala mar. Kapala dhamara.
And the practice of the practice of feasts.
Chi Kapala.
I'm guessing. I mean, I'm trying to guess here, but I'm guessing he must be thinking about the Gyamtso ge ladrut nane Guru Dhammaru token the Loden chokse dong or Pema Jalpo dong Tocheng de nga kalai horwa.
Thongche de nga ha ge zong do.
Nga ka gizong cha yomba de zan re do ma to Guru mangcho ke
Dhamara zong de.
yo mare then Kapala sana. So there are several forms of Guru Rinpoche that are holding Dhammarus in our feast practice. The 5 Terchengs who surround Padmabhadra in the throat are all holding Dhammarus in their right hands. And also 2 of the forms in the external mandala, Loden Chokse and Pema Jalpo, are holding Dhammarus in their right hand. But unless you clarify what you mean by Kapala, Kapala can mean skull, so do you mean skull Dhammaru? Or are you asking about a particular Mahasiddha? Because there are some of the Mahasiddhas who are shown holding Dhammas, and so it could be a question about that. But
I think this is when you can't talk to the person
no, you can't.
directly
No,
that
no,
makes
you
it hard.
Can't do it.
So, I guess in dreams, it's very clear that other people that you see, if you're, oh, I'm dreaming, then these people are definitely your own mind.
Right.
Right? But then in this waking state, I guess my confusion is around like the fact that there's others, but then they're not necessarily, I can't just be like, hey guys, I'm dreaming, and just do.
So you want to know about the difference in
Yes.
levels of existential reality of the people we interact with while we're awake and the people we interact with in dreams?
Because if we're training to see this as a
Yeah, I
dream,
know.
yes, okay, thank you.
Yeah. 지동생 가서 그 밀람통도 되네 담으라 몸보게 나와 샤기요 와. 내 가서 밀람 연도 전에 되네 신나 통나 ngone rangi nangwa tsamre ma ngose de lapa ke na shena kayan zo yo mare ngotso ke bakcha ke nangwa tsamre
ro
nyinmu kapso ngotso ke mishenda la drawa zo ke yores dona de milamge morangse de milamge mede ke shenju mares rangi nangwa tsam dine nyinmu kapso nangwa ke mede semchin shenju pares 되게 chepa dekhandaredo.
대 덴바리스 녀모게 나와데 마탐지 가서 통야 마탐지 가서 그 덴바 트럭 산네 딘생 디 톱데 그 응보레 톡조요바 라조요바 깨자 히조요바 박찬 토보레 세모가 값은 나랑 그 말음 트바랑다서 나랑 말음 소소가 나와데 니무 박차 델라데는 세모 나와라 그 트론로 콜레 트와티 전주 그 버치다 말랑오 히고리 데인데 때문에 응보 요마리 장교주 요마리 때 말랑오 히자 말람 저저벤데 말람 그 값서 고 마텔라 토야 요마 라야 요마리 데레 제발 요리 가서 그 니모 가서 마텔 토야 요리 말람 리 도도 마도데 대가 하고로 가서 말람 리도 말람나 트마 요마리 소소 그 조보게 샤로 요마리 말람나 초랑 송네 세마나나 송네 나랑 말람 리 도도 마도데라 세마데 지도야 요마리 대가서 뭐텔라 토교주 토사 요마리 땡아랑 그 나와 그 천낭 잠리 딘 트라디 전지 거 버치던 천낭디 말람데 군잔도 거러와다 대리마도 제가 님진이 가하리다 데 나와 그 트라 잠리 봉업때는 년간 트라 잠리 데 연단 치모 대례장 트라 잠리
There are kind of a couple of ways to look at it, and Lama went through both of them. There is an apparent existential difference in the degree of reality of the people with whom we interact in our daily, waking state, and the people with whom we interact in the dream state. The reason for this apparent difference in reality is that the habits and karmic seeds which lead to the projections we call the waking state, the projections of the waking state, are much more deeply entrenched. And because these habits are more deeply entrenched, therefore these appearances have much more solidity. So for example, the people with whom you interact while you're awake don't usually change from one form into another or disappear and so on, because the habit that is causing that projection is much more deeply entrenched. Because the habit is more solid and stable, the appearance or projection itself is more stable. Nevertheless, as we experience the world, there does seem to be a clear distinction between the reality or degree of reality of someone in a dream who you won't meet again. I mean, they're in that dream, and you might dream about them again, but they'll be a different person or something different. Whereas it's safe to say that you will often interact more than once with the same person in the waking state, which means that they have some kind of continued, your projection of them is somehow more continuous or more long living. And this is why we regard the dream state as one of additional delusion. The way we experience the waking state is diluted to start with, but we're even more diluted when we're dreaming. We are even more out of it in the dream state than we are during the waking state. That's why we seek the opportunity to purify the delusion of the dream state and focus on it as a distinct or separate state of mind. And then the other thing he said is, the apparent physical experience in the dream, interaction with other people, seeing places and so on, is not truly physical experience. It's thoughts that have, for various reasons, become deeply entrenched enough that they arise as apparent visual and auditory and tactile sensations. But there's not actually, the things that are happening to your body in a dream are not really happening to your body, which is asleep.
Nga zola da dedog chona mambo re kien da ko ning char ka pa kya te tin chemo yang char nyemo yang char chemo te malam ya bango khina malam dele cha te sa ti malam ti ngo ni nyamni sin ro de ten ko ti pa kya ngimba da pa je tang da rin de teni nyimsi yirmi nyongma ke ni hi ko ne lo ga ta ba thol ro tha par ke ta tin ri ke nyemo ga thap dan chemo ga thap ta thap te la tin nga so ke teni ta nyamli lam path nga so ten ro da ko.
That's why we seek to practice both in the waking state or during the day and during dreams and eventually deep sleep during the night. Because in our current state, our delusion during the day reinforces and worsens our delusion in the dream state, which reinforces and worsens our delusion during the day. Well, because it works that way, it can also work the opposite way. If you can replace the delusion of the dream state with a heightened awareness, that will help you eradicate delusion during the waking state. And as Lama presented earlier, the use of mindfulness and so forth during the waking state will help eradicate the delusion of the dream state. So eventually what we seek is a meditation that is continuous day and night.
So, what is the form of Guru Rinpoche in the practice of the sadhana of the enlightenment of all the victorious ones gone to bliss?
The shik jawa chidok khasa the kunchi chinto jawa yambala yumyapa de marve. Well, he's not called anything else, but he's very similar to the form of the peaceful guru in the embodiment of the three jewels, where he's youthful and he's holding his vajra up and his legs are fully crossed, but instead of a katvanga, he's in union with his consort Yeshe Topgyal.
That's it, right?
I think so.
All good. Now we have left over and half an hour, no problem. I want to do rest and prepare. Tomorrow we have going to make a torma.
Oh,
3 days we need making
Shitoke.
torma, ta hitoke torma chagori. Then the 3 hours singala left over time though. Then a pay up on though. Then it's a pay chipo weekend yapori. So then it's hamake taranke stroke. Nga so twa telling give it our council about Tamji Majan Rovan Nam Katadanya Besimji Tamji Songjo Dorjin Shanga Compato Pechito Hoa the Mola Legion the song bar Hyo Tiningaran Kibo Jones.
Then perhaps we can end now and conclude with the dedication and aspirations, because several of us have to start making tormas over the next 3 days in preparation for the week-long Vajrasattva practice. And so please join me in dedicating the virtue of our questions and answers this afternoon to the achievement by all beings of the state of great unity, the state of Buddha Vajradhara. And thank you. I've enjoyed this weekend very much.
Oh, Zonam Daya Tamji Zebani Tomne Nibe Dana Bamze Jika Namje Balavan Trobaye Seben Zole Rowa Yo Gewan Dayi Jiwogan Sona Yeshe Zozo Sonam Yeshe Lezonwe Tamba Kunye Doba Yo Sanjo Semne Rumbo Maji Pana Jijuraje Jiba Nyamba Meba Dan Koni Kon Pewa Yo Simji Damji Dedan Dinjuraje Ngindro Damji Dado Tombarai Sanjo Samba Kanda Zaryo Ba Deda Kanje Mo Draba Yo Sanje Reje Zunze Dambe Jarkan Deja Danda Lemba Sabje Mezon Deve Sanga Ju Sige Zomda Jabe Traye Yo Lazo Lama.
Thank you.
Thank you. Give me a vote. Re Gosari Nga Re Mina Zabzabzu. Mingone Kanjaki Yama Zabzabzo. Narada Yandro Teremi so Tesare Tomachaki. This Hanin also Tomachaki.